made $2 million, I was like, if I could make $3 million, then I'd be happy.
It's a supply and demand. Hell, it's a supply and demand business when you're a drug dealer too.
It's what I wish all business owners have, is that point where, the business is spinning the way it was supposed to when you started it.
And out of nowhere, insurgents, on top of the rooftops, started firing down at us. And I'll never forget that day because bullets were landing all over the place, and all you can hear is the pinging noise.
Welcome, Stories in Business family. This is episode number 54 of Stories in Business podcast. We're flying through them, episode number 54, and on this episode I talked with Mike Winnet. Mike is classed himself as the #1 demotivational speaker in the UK. Have a look at his LinkedIn. It's pretty interesting to say the least, and obviously the link for that is in the description below. But we talk about how this whole world of entrepreneurship, how it's dangerous, how 99% of the people are not going to be successful in terms of being the 1%, which is fascinating. So obviously talk about that. We go down different routes. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Mike's new book is coming soon, The Contrapreneur, so look out for that. And all the links, as per usual, are below in the description to reach out to Mike. And please click that subscribe button. Mike Winnet, thanks so much for coming on Stories in Business. And I think the sort of best place to start is, and I've taken this from your website and your LinkedIn, and obviously I want to introduce you properly, but I suppose you're known for demotivational talks aimed at crushing average people's dreams of entrepreneurship. So could you just talk about, I think what would be good for context is just to give us a bit of an overview, Mike, of what you're actually doing and what your sort of aim is in terms of that I can't even say the damn word, demotivational.
Yeah, well, so really what I'm trying to do is shine a light on an area of entrepreneurship or business that most of these people online or that stood on stage and talking about business aren't trying to promote, really. It's all rainbows, clouds, fluffy, it's all vision boards, it's reach for the stars and you'll achieve your dreams. If I can do it, you can do it. And I just think it's pushing an agenda that's not necessarily true. And I don't think it's good for people to buy into that, really. I think they're kind of neglecting the dark side of entrepreneurship and business and stuff like that for this idea that someone's trying to sell them, because ultimately everyone wants happy stories that end well. Everyone loves a happy ending. Everyone wants to know that it's all going to be work out well and everything's going to work out fine for you and you're going to be ultra successful. But that happens for such a small percentage of people that get involved in business that I think really there was a gap for someone to say, look, this isn't easy. It's not a 4-hour work week. It's not the 1 Minute Millionaire. It's none of these things that the books that sell, off the shelf. This is long, hard. You will lose friends. You will lose family. As soon as you tell people you want to be an entrepreneur, you're putting yourself in a position where most people want you to fail.
Yeah.
So I just want everybody to realise that is what you are signing up for. You're probably not going to be in that 1% that become super successful. You're not going to be the Musks or the Steve Jobs or anything like that. So if you can then kind of readjust what you're aiming for, get a little bit more comfortable with being average, you might actually find that it's more attractive just to stay in that relatively safe job where you're on decent money, but you've got none of the stresses, hassle, and all the social stigma that comes attached with trying to elevate yourself from where you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Do you think there's an element of that people... I've talked about this before about, comparing yourself to others, which we're guilty of as a race, I think, at the moment with the advent of social media, etc. But do you feel that more and more people, and I don't want to go down the sort of mental health route, but do you think more and more people are becoming sort of they feel like they're not achieving because there's these 1%ers, you know, you mentioned Tony Robbins or Steve Jobs or whoever, that we think to ourselves, you know, Jesus, you know, fucking hell, we're just not good enough. And that in itself is dangerous, because then you're in a spiral down, because you're always putting those sort of people on a pedestal that you want to achieve it. And like you've just said, that 99% will never even get close.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm actually glad you brought that up. So the mental health issue during this journey, and where I'm at now, and with the book that I'm writing, it's kind of become more about the mental health side of this. So you're more than welcome to go down that route. So I agree. Yeah. So I see now entrepreneur, like say in the 80s or the 90s, you know, I had posters of like wrestlers or musicians or actors or whatever on my wall. They were our heroes as kids, you know, or as young adults. They were our heroes. No one wanted to be Steve Jobs. No one wanted to be the guy that invented Windows at that time. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But now you see, you know, Zuckerberg creating apps. You see all these different entrepreneurs, Gary Vee, and they're all over social media, and they have become our heroes. So it's almost, this is their moment. They are the superstars. They are the rock stars of kind of this generation, the social media generation. But I see how we act with social media. So Facebook, when people post pictures, that is the absolutely best picture they took out of 50 that they posted online. It's the best scenario they could construct there, and it's also filtered to death. So what you are seeing is one fake snapshot in 24 hours of their life, where they have made it look as perfect as possible. And I think very similar to how women felt under pressure, and men nowadays, I'd say more men nowadays, they need to look a certain way, they need to dress a certain way, they need to be a certain size, like a size 10 or whatever it might be. I think we are becoming like that with business, and entrepreneurs and anybody involved in business now feels like, well, I need to be doing $1 million in turnover, I need to be doing a 10x company. All these words that really are pretty much nonsense. You know, 10x is a perfect example of that. Everyone's striving for this mythical 10x, but if you actually ask someone to quantify that, they haven't really got a clue what that means. And I honestly do think, and I do think we are suffering, because then we, as in people that are in business, then feel, well, if he's putting that online, he's putting that on Instagram, and he's got that house, and he's got that Lamborghini, and he's doing all his vlogs from the inside of his Ferrari, I need to be seen as doing that, or I will not be seen as successful as that. So that then comes to the point, that goes hand in hand with fake it before you make it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am with the Mike Winnet stuff. It's what started out as almost like the target or the butt of my kind of joke, which is you're faking it before you're making it. In fact, you're faking it at the expense of making it in many cases. You'd rather look successful rather than be successful. Quietly going about your business, working hard, achieving those objectives and goals that you set out. They'd rather just post something on Instagram, get a few hundred likes. If it doesn't get the likes that they want, they'll take that down.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of the generation we're in now. It's more about what you look like rather than sort of having substance to sort of what you're trying to portray, really. But yeah, so I think the mental health issue is, you hit the nail on the head with that. Definitely.
I think, you know, you raise a good point in the fact that, and I've never thought about it like this, and I can see myself being not part of the problem, but, you know, like you've just pointed out, you know, women are hounded left, right and centre in various magazines and online, of course, with, you know, I know a few years ago, size 0 was thrown around a lot, and obviously models and bits and pieces like that. And it's weird, because that's exactly the same that's then come full circle with, I suppose, men in some respects, because I'm painting a sort of a brush on men, saying that it's only men in business. Of course it isn't, but I'm just sort of comparing them as the two, is that you've got women on one sense with the size 0 stuff and how they look, and then you've got men on the other side in terms of success and how they portray themselves with, like you've just said, Lamborghinis and, you know, whatever it might be, which is such a dangerous route to go down, and I wonder where it'll end up in the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, exactly that. Exactly that. It's I think that's kind of the the easiest example to give, or the easiest comparison, is where women felt under pressure from, like, these cover models previously. Men feel like that. I'd even say men in fitness and men in the gym now. Everyone wants to look like they've got 6-pack and 8-pack, even though they don't realise, well, that's an airbrush photo. It's under lighting. They look like that for that one photo shoot. They don't walk around looking like that. They're wearing oil, and it's like, I think we've become, because everyone's portraying this fake, or everyone's trying to aspire to a certain level that doesn't exist for 99% of the people on the planet. So instead of trying to say, look, you should do this because you could be the next whoever, I'm saying, look, you shouldn't do this because you're aspiring to be something that isn't even there, and the chances of you achieving that are so minute. Don't put yourself through the actual, what would you call it?
The hardship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so what do you think? Because there's no harm, I suppose, in having an ambition, is there? But is it just to have that self-awareness that, look, the odds are really fucking stacked against you?
Yeah. So, but also, they're called SMART objectives, aren't they? So, and the R stands for realistic. So just be realistic with them. I've worked with people that have said, like, have made outlandish claims saying, I'm going to be worth X million by this date. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to have £1 million business. We're talking like 50, 60, 70, 100 million by a date that's like 6, 12, 18 months in the future.
Jesus.
And this is what I mean, but these are the kind of mood of people that you're working with. So then when you actually say, well, how are you going to achieve that? They couldn't even come up with a kind of plan, an idea. Pretty much they're relying on, I'm going to win the lottery. And even then, they'd have to win the Euro Millions to hit these kind of figures. But in their minds, they think, having a side hustle, making picture frames on Instagram, they're going to become a multi-millionaire. Well, just think of that logically.
Yeah.
You're not going to be. So, since selling my old business, I've met so many people that come to me with business ideas, and it's just, everybody's got an idea. And, I just think maybe some people should just, not follow them. Some people's ideas for businesses are absolutely ridiculous. So, I found myself more talking people out of going into business rather than, saying, oh yeah, definitely do it. You can achieve whatever you want to. It's just like, come on, mate.
Get realistic. Yeah,
and realistic.
And also, and I've talked about this before, is that, it's fantastic being in employment in some respects, because at the end of every month, you get a nice little pay slip that drops on your desk, and that money's there, and you've also got the backup of the company in some respects. Whereas on the flip side, if you're doing whatever, a lot of the chances, people generally tend to leave businesses, and I've certainly felt of leaving a business a while ago on the premise that it's too hard, it's too difficult. Whereas, I needed to get my sort of back together, think about it, Tom, it's so much more difficult on the other side.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, look, the entrepreneur lifestyle has been glamorized, hasn't it? But what I find is it's a lot of normal and vulnerable people are being led down a garden path by this insta successful entrepreneurs and gurus. Like, I've had normal jobs. I've worked in banks, I've worked in call centres, I've worked in McDonald's, I've had numerous office jobs. I've done all sorts. And I do get that, you're exchanging 40 or 50 hours of your week, and you might feel like you're owned by them. They tell you when you can have time off, how long you can have, how much money you can earn. I do get all that.
Yeah.
And I get that people sometimes get upset about pay rises being linked to length of service and commission structures that are ever changing and difficult to achieve. So I've been through all them things, and I set up my own business off the back of that. But I left quite a well-paid job to set up my own business. Well, relatively well-paid, But what I think it is, really, is the rise of, say, like YouTube and Instagram stars. They're telling you that, like, you can live life on your terms, and you're seeing and hearing numerous success stories every single day. And it's all like, you can have a lifestyle business, or you can turn your passion into a career. But right now, what's your passion? Like, I'll ask you a question, Tom. What is your passion? Is it podcasting?
It certainly is, mate. If I could do this full time, travelling around, Jesus, who's better than me?
Yeah. So you've got a passion. But, I'll be honest, I haven't got a passion, really. There's nothing I feel that passionate about. And I think it's stuff like that as well. It's like, when people say, follow your passion. Well, You don't have to follow your passion. You just have to identify somewhere where you think you can actually, there's an opportunity for you to create a business and make money. It's another thing that's almost like a mythical thing, follow your passion. If you can turn your passion into a successful business, great. But again, you would be in the absolute minority.
Yeah.
So
Go on, Mike, sorry.
yeah, so I've had a business that I part owned that was a beauty salon. I have got no interest in beauty, health or beauty at all. But it was just like, the numbers stacked up. If there was a beauty salon there and it charged these prices, it could make money. Well, guess what? The business was like, we sold the business 4 years later. We made a £15,000 loss, and we didn't take a wage for 3 years.
Goodness me.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like there's so many bad. So these are the kind of stories I want to tell people, rather than, oh wow, look at this. I bought an online course from Tony Robbins for £1,997 because it was on offer, and then I was a millionaire in 4 months' time. It does not work like that. It's many of these people that we are following that are saying, you can achieve this in such a short time frame. I get asked it all the time. How do I become a millionaire? What's the quickest way to become a millionaire? Well, what these people aren't telling you, because it doesn't sell and it's not sexy. There's a book called The 1 Minute Millionaire. I don't know if you've seen that. It's like a bestseller.
I haven't, no.
No, well, imagine if that book was on the shelf next to the 100-Hour Work Week. Now, no, but I'm being serious. Like, which one is someone going to buy?
Yeah,
so many of these people that we're following have been in this game for absolutely years. 10, 15 years plus, 100-hour work weeks, 80-hour work weeks, hard graft. But that doesn't sell. That's not sexy. So we're sat there in these jobs where we think we're being sort of enslaved to the system, rat race or whatever. And you want to become a millionaire in 6 months. So it's like, how can I become a millionaire in 1 hour a day? Then you swallow that lifestyle and Instagram picture thing and you get a side hustle because you think it'll replace the shithole that you're currently in. But, there is no one secret thing that's going to make you a millionaire. There's nothing you're not going to become a millionaire with minimal effort, unless you win the lottery. So it's an easy choice in my mind. It's an easy choice for these vulnerable people. Do I want to work 50 hours a week for someone I hate to maybe pay off a mortgage in 40 years' time, to then, pass down my house to my children that probably don't even respect me or like me too much? I know that's miserable, or do I want to go on this journey because I've seen some YouTube video of a 23-year-old lad from California sat on the front of a Lamborghini that says he's doing this in 3 months? Well, I can see why a lot of vulnerable people, I wouldn't even say not very smart because that's not too kind, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's no kind of critical thinking or kind of independent thinking. Well, he's probably making his money now, convincing fools like me that this is possible, rather than he has made this money previously and he is now posting this out of the goodness of his heart to help people. Does that make sense?
It does. Do you think a rise in the amount of courses is one of the things that is one of the issues?
Yeah, because, and this is kind of what I mentioned in the book, I call them contrapreneurs. These contrapreneurs are all following the same paint by numbers, how to be an entrepreneur, like rules basically. So it's all like paint by numbers entrepreneurs. It's like, well, I know online content sell because I only have to make it once and I can sell it many times. And then I can get everybody into my click funnels. I can do Instagram marketing. I can do Facebook marketing. It is pretty formulaic in what you can do, but they're all doing the same thing. But what's funny about it is, and I've just been to a Success Resources event in London, and literally it was just a hard sell. So pretty much everybody that was on stage there, bar 2 speakers, was selling a shortcut or their secret to success. But it was all basically an online course and online support. But it was all the same kind of NLP. They were all using the same kind of language just to convince people. So it was, by now you'll realise that this is massive value. By now you'll realise that, if I can do it, you can do it. By now you'll see I was just a normal person.
There's value bombs attached.
Buy now. It was stacking the value with, if you came to me through my website, this would be 9,997. But today, because you're the ones that have took the chance and you're the hustlers that are willing to come to these events and invest in yourself. It's always invest in yourself. It's never a cost.
Yeah.
It's always an investment. You can have it for not the 6,997, not 3,997. No, that's way too expensive. You can have it for 1,997. Now, it's just like they're all following the same process. But like, and what is the value of that product? That's where they are making money. Do you know what I mean? But when you look at most successful people that you want to be like, say if it's Zuckerberg, Branson, Musk, they're not selling you online courses.
No.
So the actual really people the richest people, the most wealthiest people that we aspire to be, didn't get rich by asking, by paying or buying courses off other rich people for nearly £2,000 to then go and sit in a 3-day course in a room full of other desperate people and then go and possibly have some online support through a Facebook group. But they all seem to follow the same process today.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's on many levels. So you've got people that are doing this at a high level, say Grant Cardone wanting to charge you 10 grand, Tony Robbins wanting to charge you 10 grand, right down to Joe Blogs on LinkedIn saying, join my Facebook group for whatever that might be. So they're all
email list and
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also I don't see this getting any better in the sense that if we just target courses for the moment is, I know more and more people are sort of not going down the university route, and there's more sort of e-learning, for want of a better phrase. And so, I mean, I suppose it's a cracking business to be in, I suppose, for courses. It's not good for the other people on the other side.
Yeah, well, it's easy, isn't it? Because it's there, so it doesn't matter how many people sign up, the content's there, it's no additional work. So I do get why it works as a business model.
So Mike, I know we have gone down a bit of a rabbit warren here, but I think what would be good, could we just take a bit of a step back and sort of take me through your sort of story today up until, October 2018 of how you got to where you are now?
Okay, so I set up my own business I co-founded it with 3 other people back in, do you want me to start before then?
Yeah, you can start wherever you want, maybe school, college, university.
Oh yeah, so school, I went to boarding school at age 7. I am the son of a soldier, and when we moved back to Germany when I was 7, I didn't like my school in Germany, so I kept pestering to go back to school in England. So I am one of 3 children, but I'm the only one that went to boarding school. So, age 7, I went to school in Wales when my family lived in Germany. And as part of that, I had to learn how to budget. So my mum and dad would give me £200 a month as an allowance, and I would buy all my sort of shower gel, shampoo, clothes, all that kind of stuff. So from an early age, I was like not interested in, but I kind of got a grasp of money quite quickly. If I wanted to buy that, I'd have to go without certain things to be able to afford it. I'd have to save for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So I went through boarding school and then went to a state school for sixth form. And that was like a real eye-opener for me after 10 years in boarding school. So I'd been in a class of maybe 20 people in my year to then being in a school with like over 1,000 kids.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a massive like culture change. Then age 18, I went to London for university. I did law with criminology, and after 2 years, I quit, or I got a transfer from London and moved to Liverpool.
Why did you quit?
Do you know what it was? Long story short, really, it was just I didn't really like London. There's too many people there. There's like. I'm
exactly the same. I was there on Saturday and I couldn't wait to get out of the damn place.
Yeah, it's a nice place to visit if you're there for like a day or 2 days or whatever, but just everything's a hassle. Travelling, getting round, everything's busy. It's I don't like London at all, to be honest. But so I just left there, back up north, and then moved to Warrington because at the time I had a girlfriend that lived in North Wales.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked Warrington pretty much because it was, in my mind, halfway between Liverpool and Wales. And then I've stayed in Warrington ever since. So I've been here since 2006. So, but then graduated from university. I didn't do very well. Got like a third. I didn't even bother turning up to mine. Basically, like a third was well done. You turned up to university for 4 years. And then my dad's a major in the army, so he wanted me to do selection for Sandhurst. So I went and did this like event down in Winchester, I think it was. This is years ago now. and I got offered sponsorship from the RMPs. So really, if I wanted to go to Sandhurst, I would have had sponsorship that would have been paid for. But I just didn't fancy doing it, and that was kind of like the beginning of the end for my dad and my relationship. Really, that was his dream, to have like a son that was an officer.
Mm.
And it wasn't really for me. And I got into sales then. I just got into telesales, and I worked in call centres in Warrington, which is like the modern day version of the mines. Really, everybody in Warrington's worked in a call centre at some point. So I did that, and it blew my mind what this is it. So I've been in education all this time, and I thought, so this could be my life for the next 40 years. And I thought, no, this is ridiculous. So I thought, well, sales seems to be an opportunity where you kind of work for yourself in the sense that you've got a product. How much you work or you sell directly impacts on how much money you earn. So it was the closest you could get, in my mind, to having your own business. And I just realised that, some people were cruising through that sales job, but other people that were the best performers were not taking an hour for the lunch break. They weren't just like trying to hit KPIs like talk time and having like ridiculous, conversations. It was, I want to have good conversations to make as much money as I can or make as many sales as I can.
Yeah.
So I learned pretty quickly, that you kind of wanted to be sat next to the top earners so you could learn what they were doing. So I did sales, and then I decided I didn't really want to work like in a call centre for the rest of my life. So I ended up working in Holland. So I worked in Holland for 6 months. Then I worked in Ibiza for 6 months, so I kind of had like a year like travelling and working. Came back and thought, what am I going to do? And got a job at a new startup, which was the BT Local Business. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No, I haven't, no.
So it was like, it was BT, kind of had a small, sort of like, they franchised BT basically, and it's like you'd look after all SMEs in a particular area of the country to give them more personalised service. So I worked there on the phones. And then a job opportunity came up for field sales. I didn't even get informed about it, and it pissed me off really. So I said to my manager at the time, or the boss, why wasn't I told about this? And he said, well, you do well on the phones as it is. I wouldn't want you to move because you make enough money for us where you are. And I said, well, that isn't really how I see myself going. So can I take a month off, and I'm going to look at what opportunities I've got? And fair play, he let me have a month off.
Goodness me. Mike, can we just jump back? What was that time like at the call centre in terms of sales? Like, what did that teach you? Because telesales is, I know it's sort of a dying breed now, but some people are trying to bring it back in it, and it obviously still works.
Yeah. I don't know really. It kind of taught me that, as adults, like work's like school. You got people there that were like 35, 40 years old still acting like kids. Not taking responsibility for that, but in terms of what I learned, it just kind of made me realise that, I don't know, it was more like I've learned what not to do, what I wouldn't want to do, and I realised that, a lot of people like perseverance, all them kind of like things if you want me to talk about, like perseverance and being able to talk to people on the phone and being able to like listen to their objections and objection handle, all those kind of things but it kind of made me realise that isn't something that I wanted to do.
Mm. And at that time, Mike, when obviously you were there, it's surprising because we've just talked about people that sort of fall victim to those courses or, those influencers or whatever. Did you go down that route somewhat of sort of fall victim and think, how can I get out of this? And, we've just talked about the, 4-hour work week, etc. Did you start reading or going down that avenue?
Yeah, so I've always read. So I used to read books all the time. So I kind of had an idea of how I could be successful. But like success was relative. Like success would have been, if at that time, if I could have got onto 50,000 a year, that would have been seen as successful. So I didn't all of a sudden go from I'm earning like 1,400 quid a month in a call centre, to then thinking I'm going to have £10 million in 2 years' time. Do you know what I mean? It was almost like at different stages you kind of reevaluate, right, okay, then I've got to this stage now, I want to get to the next stage. Then, do you see what I mean?
Mm.
So it was a slow progress. I got a job in a bank. This is quite I say interesting story, you might find it boring, but I got a job in the bank, HSBC.
Mm.
You might have to edit out the name. So I got a job there, and on my third day, there was my boss at the time, so it was just a cashier's job. And it blew my mind seeing what people earn, when they were paying in money and stuff. And obviously I'd put the details in and I could see how much different jobs earns. So I was then seeing like, oh, well, that's not a bad job. That's not a bad job. Oh, I'm surprised that they make so much money, or I thought they'd make more money. So it was quite interesting for that. But on the fourth day, the guy next to me, David, his name was, he was looking through a catalogue. And I said, what are you doing? He said, oh, this is 30 years service. And I said, oh, so what does that mean? He said, well, I'm allowed to pick anything out of this catalogue as my reward for 30 years service.
Right.
And he picked a lawnmower. And that was the day I decided I was leaving the bank. I was only there 4 days. Because I thought, I'm not giving you 30 years of my life for a bronze brooch, which he could wear on his jacket, and a certificate on the wall, and a lawnmower. I just thought, you know what? I can't have someone dictating sort of how much I'm worth. I am confident enough that I can put this in my own hands.
Mm.
And I felt I was equipped enough in terms of my background, from what I'd learned at school, the people I've been around at school. I'd kind of seen it early, you know, how people have been successful and stuff. So I did that.
What sort of catalogue was that? It wasn't an Argos catalogue.
No, it's just like one in the branch. So it was like, if you had 10 years service, you could pick anything up to this part of the catalogue. If you had 15 years service, it was literally like an HSBC rewards catalogue.
What were some of the interesting jobs that you saw that you thought, you know, fucking hell, I didn't realise they earned that much?
So, do you know, a lot of builders paying in cash, anyone involved in property, stuff like that. You know, it's where you just think,
you didn't expect it.
Even skip companies. I know it's a really, really weird one, but skip companies, like stuff like that. It's just like, you know, they've gone and just seen an opportunity. No one wants to be known as Mr. Skips or Mr. whatever, but they've just gone, oh, here you go. That's where there's money. And that's kind of what I was going about, you know, finding a passion and following your dreams and all that. That sometimes that's nonsense. They've gone and found something that creates the revenue and creates the funds for them to then go and do what they want to do, what they are passionate about. You don't necessarily have to turn that into your... Because often your passion isn't going to make you money, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's a good point because, again, we're coming full circle and we're somewhat repeating ourselves here, but, you know, a lot of people are looking for businesses that they can sort of create, you know, amazing content from and bits and pieces like that. Whereas if you think about like what you've just mentioned, a skip company or I don't know, like a cardboard company, you know, you can't do daily vlogs around your cardboard company, can you? But
no.
But
I know a guy that hires out equipment, you know, for demolition. And he's charging like equipment out like £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 a day. But like every demolition job in the UK needs certain equipment. But there's only a limited number of these machines because they're so expensive. So every day he's just got... So what's he going to vlog about? He's not on Instagram. He's not. But this guy, his business was valued at something like 18 million.
It's incredible, isn't it?
But this is what I'm saying. And that's the kind of point I'm making. He's quietly going about and doing it, not making a big fuss. He's not asked about vanity metrics like likes and shares and comments. They mean nothing to him. The one metric he cares about is how much is in his bank at the end of the month. And that's kind of, I think people get too caught up in that side of things because that's nice, isn't it? You know, like talking to camera and posing. You see them all the time, but so I then ended up working for a startup that was in property. So I got really into that. So property, that's something I've been involved with. I was 4 years working in it, and then I started investing in properties and renting out properties since 2011. So, because that's where I was seeing firsthand, oh, well, this landlord's got 300 properties, this landlord's got 150 properties, this landlord's got... And someone once said to me, if you think of a property as an employee that works for you as your business, if you had an employee that made you £600, £700 a month, you just keep getting more and more of them. So I saw properties as like employees for my own personal business. So
so Mike, how did you obviously you started that, so you know, talk us about, you know, how did you start to get the properties? How did you did you have a fair chunk of money saved up beforehand, or
no, not
did
really.
you leverage it from the bank?
I just set myself a target. It's like, this year I'm going to buy a property. So I just set myself a target and cut back, and I didn't do all this like vanity stuff, and just and got the money. And to be honest, if I'd got in earlier with properties, I could have done a lot better, because what I've learned is you don't even have to use money to buy properties. You could self-certify mortgages. Obviously, it caused the financial crash in 2008. But people there, you were getting 125% mortgages and stuff like that, so you didn't even really have to put your own money in. But I didn't learn it from a course, and I'll go back to some of these entrepreneurs on LinkedIn. A lot of these entrepreneurs sell property courses and how to be a property investor. There's umpteen online courses about property investment, like boot camps, and they all use the same language, like I was selling hooks and selling techniques. Go for a 3-day intensive classroom course and stuff like that. But these are, if you dig below the surface, so many of these people don't actually invest in property or own any properties. They're making their money from telling me and you how to invest in properties. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's, you see them all the time, there's lots of Facebook groups and all that stuff. But yeah, so because I was working that every day and the people that own the business were property investors, I was kind of seeing it from the inside. And I thought, oh wow, property investment is just for normal people. You don't need to, if these idiots can do it, I can do it. And then, so that's what I did. So I've got a number of properties now, and I'm just about to complete on a property in Spain, which is a mad time, obviously, because of Brexit. So I'm about to complete on a property in Spain at the moment. That's what I've been sorting out all morning, actually.
And the aim for you, Mike, is to just continue to keep growing it either in the UK or across Europe.
Yes, as long as till the numbers stack up. So I set myself a target back then to get 15 properties all paid off by the age of 45. So like none of my own money in the properties have all been paid off. And I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right with that. So at the moment, like, this is my first one abroad, the Spanish one, and purely the only reason I picked there is because the numbers stack up better.
In terms of rent, or?
Yeah, so I can rent it out for a week over there during the season for maybe €1,000 a month, €1,000. Whereas I could put the same amount of money into a terrace property in Warrington, and that might make me £400 or £450 a month. So, like, where would you rather your money be?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but then we'll see how Brexit. But that's another thing I never really got caught up with, the Brexit thing. Because I just think, like, if you focus your energy on what you can do and what you can control, and try and improve in your own situation, you don't really have to worry so much about what other people are doing. I know that's not going to be, what would you call it? It's not really popular with many people, but that's how I always looked at it.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of the word Brexit anyway.
But yeah, so I was on like loads of numerous investment mailing lists and stuff, and I get bombarded with stuff, about like below market value deals, off-plan properties, and deals straight from the developer. I'll give you a really good story. I wanted to know how they work, so I went and offered to work at an off-plan property company that sells these properties for free. And they couldn't get their head around that I'd want to work for free, and I said, well, I'll just work commission only. And they turned it down because they felt uncomfortable that someone would want to come work for them for free. And they basically said, look, with all our other sales guys, we tell them when they want to come in, we tell them when they work, and because we've got them by the balls, because we pay them a wage, we know they'll do what we say. But you're coming here and you're saying you're not really like want a basic wage and stuff. So it blew their minds, and that was the only reason they didn't never give me the job.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's what they said to you, yeah.
Yeah, because at this point I'd sold my business, because I had another business which, ironically, you kind of slated a little bit. So it was an online e-learning company. It won 2 awards in 2017. So it won the FSB UK Startup of the Year, and it won the FSB UK Online Business of the Year. And then we sold it. We sold it to an American company the month after. So I was coming into that business, and because I had now a lump sum of money, and like I said, I never wanted to be known as e-learning boy. I never wanted to be known as the online course boy or anything like that.
Yeah.
I've always wanted just to make my money quietly. So I thought, I'm seeing all these people promising me to turn me into a property millionaire. So why don't I go and work for one of them companies and see if it's real? And that's when I had that meeting with that lady. It was, I'm interested. And she couldn't get her head around, number one, why someone that set up, started and sold a successful business wants to then go and work in the property sector. But it was the learning that was worth more to me than the money, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of talk of working for free and bits and pieces. Would you do that again if you were in a similar position 10 years ago? Sorry, not a similar position, but let's say you hadn't sold that e-learning company.
Yeah.
Would you have worked for free, and do you think it's a good idea to go down that route?
I think it's a strange one because the only people that are telling you to work for free are successful people. So it's an easy thing to say.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? But would they
Yeah.
have done it back then? And it's a really good question. The answer probably is no. However, I've taken pay cuts to go to a job because I could see that I could learn something or there was a bigger opportunity there. So when I left the BT local business, I went to a startup as the first employee. They had a single page website and they had no customers. Now, my boss at the BT said to me, I will hold the job open for you and you're more than welcome to come back at any time. Are you sure you're doing the right thing? And I said, the potential to learn here, because I knew at that point I wanted my own business at some point, the potential to learn a startup from day one will be invaluable to me.
Mm.
So I went and it was a big risk. The business could have folded at any point, or it only does because, like I was saying, most startups do. That is the reality of it. So, but I left a secure job where I was doing quite well and earning a lot of money to go to a job where I was gambling on the chance that I will learn so much during my time here
Yeah.
that will benefit me long term. So I've done it, but it wasn't for free. But yeah, I think it's a foot into the door anywhere, really.
Mm.
And I think more people should do that. But what they should do, and this is going back to what I was saying before, set yourself a realistic target. So if your realistic target is to be whatever it might be, say if I wanted to have my own podcast channel, I could say to you, Tom, I'll come and work with you for free. And then I could go around, and then eventually I can start showing you my worth, and I can then bring other clients, I can bring people in and start booking things, and then you might say, oh, do you know what, we can do something together. So you can, but if I knew I was going to do that, and you said, yeah, I want to do that with you, I could say to you, well, why don't we do it in 6 months' time? If I cut back on my spending, increase my savings, and create a little pot where I know I can get by for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, which most people don't do. And that's kind of where they're stuck, really, because we live in a society now where debt's so high, everyone's living on credit cards. That's part, and this is a completely different conversation now, that's a part that people need to get a hold of. Like, if you get control of that part of your life, which I was always good at from being a kid, it opens up chances to set up your own business. So when I set up my own business, I had saved £12,000 to pay for my bills for 6 months. So I knew, regardless of what happens for the next 6 months, I can have a real good run at this and not panic.
Mm.
But then other people wouldn't have sat there and gone, I'm going to save up 12 grand and set up my own business. They'll be there trying to get it crowdfunded, or they'll be trying to go to the bank and get a loan. But I didn't want to do that, because I didn't want to owe anyone anything. It was just like, I'm going to put in because I backed myself. And it was a pretty interesting story in terms of how fast we grew and the customers we got on, and then how we sold so quick.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and I'm guilty of this, is just not having the patience to do exactly what you've just said there, which is to and I think, I suppose it comes back round to everything comes back round to this point in terms of social media and bits and pieces, but I know I'm guilty of not having enough patience. I don't know if you are, Mike, but I know a lot of people listening to this aren't. Is we live in a world now where we can have anything, whatever we want, within a snap of a finger, and we can have, look at Amazon, you can have it in 2 hours if you want, you can have whatever you want. And yet, so that point you've just made of just save up for, 6 months, a year, even 18 months, a lot of people just won't do that.
Yeah, of course not. But do you know what it is? It's delayed gratification. That's what it is. I saw a video yesterday, and it was like some lad was on about buying a Porsche, I think it was, or a Ferrari. And the guy who was talking to basically said, like, if you go and buy a Porsche, you are now a customer of Porsche. You should be thinking of buying the company.
Yeah, buying the Porsche company.
Yeah, like, buy the company. Then you've got all the Porsches in the world. You own the Porsche. You own all. But people don't do that. They would rather go as soon as they get a little bit of money, or not even that, as soon as they get a credit card, I'm going to get X, Y, Z instantly, because I need to. But I tell you what, it's boring, and this goes back to the mental health thing. Since I got my money, it's such an empty feeling. I feel lost, to be honest.
How do you mean?
Here's an example. Most people, and I say most people, I say like working class people, we kind of put a figure, and it's always £1 million, isn't it?
Mm.
What would you do with £1 million? I can tell you what you do with £1 million. It doesn't last. It doesn't last. And I know this because when we sold our business, I got more than that. We all got more than that. We all got a lot more than that. But it's empty. It's just like, oh wow, right, now what? And I feel like it's better when you've kind of got something to focus on and have goals and all that kind of thing. It's just been a pretty strange 18 months, I'd say. In terms of going from like living in my business, and this is like the unglamorous side now, doing 16-hour days, doing 17-hour days, traveling up and down the country, working the weekends and stuff like that, not paying ourselves a wage, paying staff when we weren't paying ourselves, all these things that we did, to then go from, oh wow, you've now become like a self-made millionaire. But no one kind of talks about what happens next or what you do next or when you do get it. It's easy to kind of like aspire to achieve something, but when you do achieve it, it's a strange kind of...
Yeah, and when that happened, I've had a few people on here that have sold businesses for considerable amounts of cash, and everything's signed through, and it can take a while to obviously sell a business. And once all the paperwork's gone through, and then they check their account and they look at it. And I've asked the same question: is what was that feeling like? And of course, it's a good feeling. But they've said the exact same thing: is you come away, you see an extra few zeros, but then nothing's really changed as such.
No, this is it, honestly, and this is kind of like the demotivational thing, right? The kids are still kids on the school run. Do you know what I mean? You still hate the same parents in the playground. Milk's still milk, bread's still milk. It makes zero impact. And this is what the kind of the demotivational thing on your actual day-to-day life. Honestly, it's almost a bit sickening, to be honest, because you always imagine that your life's going to be rosy, don't you? If you've got like 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million in your bank. But it's kind of not, and it's a whole different stress and pressure that's then added on top as well. People, like some of your friends, don't want to be your friends anymore because it's all right for you when you've got that type of money. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like if I said to some of my friends, I say friends now, I wouldn't necessarily call them friends anymore, because you've changed if you move house, you've changed if you get a new car, and all these kind of things, even though you're the same person, and they loved talking to you when it was all going wrong, or you weren't paying yourself and you were struggling. But as soon as you achieve something, and this is kind of what I was saying about when you put yourself out there as I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, people really want you to fail because you're doing something that they necessarily wouldn't have the bottle to do themselves. So you going and achieving something, which is mad because they'll go and support these celebrities on Instagram and they'll go and support all these big products, but they wouldn't buy from you because you're their mate and they know you, so they shouldn't buy from you. Or if you've got a villa, say if you've got a villa in Spain, what's the first thing your mates would say? Oh, do you do mates rates? But then they'd go and hire a villa from somebody else in Spain at the proper price.
Yeah, it's mad.
Which is mad, isn't it? Because we don't really want each other to do well.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Do you reckon it's purely down to jealousy? Or...
Human nature. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah.
And I would say the most successful people actually do want you to do well. Do you know what I mean? So, I know people that were made up for me. They got nothing from it. They were absolutely made up for me, and they'd support me on their way, and they were the happiest ever. But it was the ones that were close to them, like, even your family, your mum, your dad, your sister, your brother, whoever it might be, they're the ones that actually resent it the most, which, when you think about it, is absolutely bonkers, isn't it?
It is. And I know some people, I'm not going to name any names, but, people who've come from, some certain friends of mine who've come from very, relatively really decent backgrounds. I know people that don't want them to do well because they've sort of had it cushy all their life, if you know what I mean. So if they then get success on top of what they've already been given as a kid, then it winds other people up. But
there's an argument. I would say that if you're born into money, you've probably got less chance of being successful in the sense that you don't realise how much graft or how much hard work goes into it. So you're probably more. I'm not backing this up with stats or anything. It's just a throwaway statement, or an observation. It's almost like if you've had everything handed to you, you don't realise the value of money, or you don't realise how much hard work goes into acquiring that in the first place. So you're probably going to burn through that money quicker, or make decisions that you're not really, you've never really experienced before. So you'll be making the wrong decisions because you've never had to worry about cash flow or worry about paying people's wages and all that kind of thing. You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying that's necessarily the truth, but take Donald Trump. People like Donald Trump as an example. Oh well, he's only where he is because of his dad's money, but I'm sure he lost a lot of his dad's money.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it? How it doesn't necessarily.
No, I'd love to know what the stats are on that. I don't know if there is any, or you can get them on, because there's always talk about trust fund babies and things like that, and trust fund kids, and all that, and how background affects it. I think maybe that.
What? It's something that a lot of people will say they've only got that because of, and that makes it easier for them to digest because they don't want them people to be successful. So I know this. And they will know who I'm talking about when I say this. So I know people that would say, well, they've only got that because the dad paid for it for them, rather than saying, oh yeah, it's good that they've got that. And you're supposed to be friends, but you should be saying, oh, I'm really proud that my friend's got her own beauty salon. I'm really proud that my friend's got, I don't know, their own product in the shop. I'm really friends that my friend has set up, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's like, oh, well, she's only got that because a dad helped her out. It's like, why are you going for a negative angle on that? Sorry. And that's kind of all I'm doing. I'm just, with the Mike Winnet stuff, I'm just trying to highlight that, this is what is out there. It's not all like clouds and like rainbows, like I originally said. Like, this is hard work, and the chances of success aren't very big. And even when you get success, those people you think will be happy for you, very few of them actually will.
It's a somber thought to end on. Mike, thank you so much. I think what would be good is, have you got any, I know you do a few tours and talks and bits and pieces, but, where can people find more about you and obviously the Mike Winnet stuff as well?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I'm Mike Winnet. That is Winnet with one T. I have the website, demotivateme.co.uk. And I've got a book coming out which is called The Contrapreneur, and that is basically deconstructing these people online that are positioning themselves as entrepreneurs and how they are targeting vulnerable people. So that should be out. We are looking at December.
Right. How have you found writing that book? Is it your first book or?
Yeah. So it's the first book. Hard really because it started off. I think maybe the fans of my stuff on LinkedIn aren't going to like it so much because it's not just, because that's a bit of an in-joke. LinkedIn's a bit of an in-joke. It's like we can all laugh at all the people that we all know who they are. We can all laugh at those self-obsessed or self-appointed inspirational gurus. But that's a bit of a long joke, to try and like drag out for the length of a book. And there's also no value in it. It's just like taking the mick out of someone with no kind of like benefit to the reader. You know what I mean? It's almost like bullying, I suppose. So it's kind of almost like a humorous look at the way that social media is and online gurus and these Insta successful people are. But then also with like my own experiences and a bit more about the kind of how I'm in this position to be able to do this, because that's what I get asked a lot, this can't pay the bills, what do you really do? Well, what I really do is I've always invested my money since I was like in my 20s. So I live off like my investments, and then obviously I set up my own business with, like I said, co-founded it with 3 other people, and we sold that and we got a massive lump sum. So that's kind of what I've done. I've just been investing for the last 18 months, but I was already investing previously. Again, that's a realistic way of leaving the rat race, but you need to be sensible with your money at the front end, if that makes sense. But no, like I said before, investing's long term. Like everybody can be a millionaire if they invest, but they'll be a millionaire in 20 years time, 25 years time, 30 years time, but no one wants that. They want to be a millionaire in 4 months doing an online course.
It's not sexy, that, is it? A millionaire in 30 years.
No, but it means then you're in a position to set your kids up and teach them rules, and then that's how it's almost like legacy wealth. That's what I'm interested in. I'm not that fussed about me. I've done okay, but now I'm investing all my money so my kids are in a position where they've got the opportunity and the choice. That's the biggest thing for me.
Brilliant. Yeah, it certainly does, Mike. Thank you so much. Honestly, I really do appreciate it. And thanks for it's been wicked, sort of delving into this world. That this will certainly be one for people listening that is not usually the sort of flip side, So it's good to get that balance. It really is.
Cheers. Thanks very much.